So welcome. This is the fourth installment of a series, and this is the end of what I've called part one, which is arbitrary and not arbitrary. There is an overall arching system, but I also thought four workshops is enough for part one, so we'll call that part one. So this is our last, and if you're here for the first time, no worries. You came at the best time. This is the one you need to be here for. So there's no concerns about that. Might be nice to just go around and say our names, because we're not such a gigantic group that we don't have time to do that. And many of you have been here throughout, but some people are here, I see, for the first time, and it would just be nice to share who's in the room together, because we'll have times during the day-to-day where we might want to offer voice to each other. So it's nice to hear each other's voices. So I'm Mira, for those of you that I haven't met before. Hi. And Heather put all the food together and has really made the whole thing happen. So we can be really grateful to Heather. I'm very grateful to Heather. Thank you.
Salvador.
Jenny.
Dave.
Gloria.
Ben.
Luna. Liam.
Ryan.
Caitlin. Susanna.
Zach. Dimitri. Jed.
The floor.
Tada.
Kelly. Tanel.
Joel.
Hi, Sean. Oh, hi. How are you? Good. And hi, everyone, Tanya, or whoever is watching online. Some of the people who usually watch online are actually here today. They have traveled and are here. But so as we make our transition from the outside, ordinary, sort of everyday space to the sacred space of hearing these teachings, it's nice to make that transition through song. So we're going to do a little singing. And no one has to sing at all, except for Caitlin, because she's leading the singing. So hopefully she'll agree to sing. But I've asked her, and Susanna's going to play, yeah? Thank you. So they'll play a song, and you can, Caitlin will lead you. Maybe you're doing call and response, or maybe you're just going to start singing. She'll let you know. If it's enjoyable for you to sing, please sing. It has nothing to do with how well you do or don't sing. It's about us being able to share our energy and our voices together. And this is a nice way to create the container from out there to the sacred speech that we're going to share together today. And moving into this expressiveness of our voice is a lovely way to do that. Or you can just sit and listen and enjoy the sound and be quiet in yourself, and that's perfect too. So whatever works for you. Hi, come on in. Find a seat.
Seth showed up with his guitar today, so he's going to join us.
Fantastic.
And I think Jenny is going to join us today too.
Yay. It's even better when you're nervous to sing when half the class is leading, because then you just go, great, there's a chorus here. So can we, before we start, just so for the new folks, so we just went around and said our names just to check in. So I'm sorry you missed that, but would you be willing to just say, so we can hear your voices and say hi?
I'm Miriam.
Miriam, hi.
Mindy.
Mindy?
Jean.
Hi, Jean. So we're just going to start. We're going to sing a song, and you're welcome to sing or not sing along. It's totally up to you, whatever works for you. Okay?
Wait, we'll start.
Caitlin, are we doing call and response, or are you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We'll sing through the song. Once it's a song, we'll all sing together, and the words are simple enough that you'll catch on.
to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. Sing it with a voice that's like a prayer to wake up the heart, wake up the heart. Wake up the heart, to wake up the heart, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. Sing it with a voice that's like a prayer to wake up the heart, wake up the heart, wake up the heart, to wake up the heart, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. I'll sing it with a voice that's like a prayer to wake up the heart, wake up the heart. Wake up the heart, to wake up the heart, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. Sing it with a voice that's like a prayer to wake up the heart, wake up the heart, wake up the heart, to wake up the heart, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. Sing it with a voice that's like a prayer to wake up the heart, wake up the heart, wake up the heart, to wake up the heart, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. I want to sing a song of pure light, so love will shine through me. Thank you. So we're going to do a short meditation, and after our meditation, you might do some writing. So if you have a notebook close to you, if you need a notebook, or we have some big paper here, and there are some pens, so raise your hand if you need something to write with. Yeah, and keep it high. So let's get some paper and pen to... So raise your hand if you need paper. Thanks, Heather. So the step today, For those of you that are just visiting us today, we are tracking through what is called in the Buddhist tradition the Lamrim. And the Lamrim means the steps on the path to awakening, awakening the heart, awakening the mind. And this is a very clearly set out system for moving yourself to your highest evolution of your consciousness. And it's perfect. When we look at the clarity of the system, we can somehow mistake that it's sort of already happened. But of course, we need to go through the process ourselves, which is actually quite a messy process. So it's helpful. The system is very clear. And our actual engagement, it's like the system is the skeleton, and then we bring in the blood and the guts and the sweat and the muscle and the skin and all the rest of the body, okay? So that's what we're doing during these workshops, is putting the embodiment into these practices. We've gone through the first 3 images, and we're on the 4th image. And what we'll discuss today is the foundation consciousness for the whole of the practice. So in the last workshop, I'm not going to do long of a review, but in the last workshop we talked about meeting a guide, meeting someone who can be a teacher for you, a model in your development. Not someone who is a savior, an external savior for you, but someone who you can draw inspiration from, deep inspiration from, model, and then find your own individual embodiment of that consciousness that you witness outside of yourself. The first thing that being will teach you about, whether directly through voice or just through their presence, is that your life is fantastic, that you have the most amazing opportunity in this lifetime, and that if you really understood that, your head would explode. That you couldn't even hold it, actually. The degree of your fortune is off the charts, okay? So, again, you might receive that teaching in voice, you might receive it through that being's actions, you might just be able to feel the richness in that person's energy that sort of awakens you to the fact that, like, oh, like something's going on here, you know? This is not just like every day. So this is the quality and the consciousness that we're going to address today. So we'll do a short meditation to start to drop ourselves into that. So get yourself comfy. You can sit in any way you want. I would just ask you not to lay down because it's so hard not to fall asleep when we're laying down. And close your eyes. And we'll take 1 minute in silence. And during this time, I would just ask you to rest and let your body, your speech, and your mind just settle and open and relax. And if it doesn't, don't worry about it. You're just making an invitation to be here during this silence. Now move yourself into your heart and trust that you know how to do that. However you think to do that is exactly right. Taking yourself into your heart. And in that place, I will ask you to recall a moment or a time in your life when you felt like things were going perfectly for you. Or you could say you felt the preciousness of the moment, or you felt extreme gratitude. A time or a moment in your life where you were fully aware of how extraordinary that moment was. And again, you can trust whatever it is that comes up for you. It might have been just 5 minutes ago. It might have been 50 years ago. It doesn't matter. And recall the people who were involved, or the beings who were involved, or perhaps there were no beings there, perhaps you were alone. Bring yourself back to the whole circumstance. And most importantly, allow that quality of the feeling that you had in that moment, that time, to rise back up in your heart, to well up in your heart. Invite it in. And feel that that feeling begins to spread from your heart through your body, infusing your being. And then I would ask you to see if you can allow the individual circumstance that brought about this sensation, let that circumstance dissolve away now, but maintain your awareness of the sensation. So allow the object, the person, place, or thing that this is related to, dissolve away. And yet the sensation remains. And not only does it remain, but it increases in its clarity and its vibrancy within your being. This is nothing that you have to force. It's simply an invitation to allow it to occur. And then I would ask you to play with the possibility that you could allow the self that is having this sensation to also dissolve into the very sensation itself, so that the whole consciousness is simply this quality. I don't want to put any words on it for you, it's yours. Feel the particularity of this vibration and allow it to grow in its vibrancy and clarity, and let the self dissolve within it. And just noting for yourself that this is here with you, inside of you. It's nothing outside of you. And so now just take a moment, and you might write a few words, you might draw a little something, But I would just like you to share with yourself something of this experience, whatever feels meaningful for you in whatever way you wish to. Something that you noticed, a question, an image. So you can continue to write if you wish. We're going to sort of roll. These are going to be short little awarenesses that we're doing here. But you can keep writing if it feels vital for you to do so. So this was to go inner, and we'll try one to go outer. So I would just ask you to look around the room and find something that you genuinely appreciate, that genuinely moves you. And no judgment what that is. If you appreciate the dust ball, awesome. Whatever it is. And when you find it, I would just ask you to spend some time with it. And ask yourself, what is it that I appreciate about this thing? What is it that moves me, makes me grateful that this is here? And I would ask you also, as you're doing this, to touch base again with the sensation. What is the feeling of this appreciation or gratitude or interest that you have? And then just as an experiment, shift your focus to something that you're not so interested in, maybe you just ignored or you passed over. And see if you can bring the quality that you had with the thing that you appreciated to this next. bit of phenomena that you're witnessing. It's just play. So can you cultivate that same quality with this other object? Okay. These are like we're tuning in. So close your eyes one more time. And now, this one might be a little more challenging. Maybe not. So now call to mind a situation or being, person, object that there's some tension around for you or some challenge around. Call that up for yourself. And then just to play, can you open that quality with this situation? Can you call up in your heart that quality of appreciation or gratitude, interest, and let it flow into this situation, this being? It's just a what if. You're just playing with the possibility here. How would you do that? What might that look like? What might that feel like? How might that change your perspective on the situation? And then in light of what you've just considered, I would like you to write down one concrete thing about this consideration that seems meaningful for you to note. You could write down more if you want, but one, at least one concrete thing. So this quality that we've just been working with, this is pointing towards the quality of consciousness of this step, which is traditionally called freedoms and gifts. And so we'll go through the freedoms and gifts today. One of the things that I find so heartwarming about the Buddhist tradition is that it begins with confidence. So many traditions, it appears, or maybe we could just say in our secular life in general, we often begin with what is wrong. So we often start with what we have to fix with ourselves, the issues that we have, the dramas that we have going on. And it's interesting, you know, when people, I'm sure you've heard this term, like, get real. Has anybody heard that? Like, get real with me? So the implication of that is you should talk about what's really wrong, right? The implication is like, you're not telling me what's really going on, which is something bad, so get real with me. So I think it's interesting that in our vernacular within the secular world, getting real points to something negative. That's the opposite of the spiritual traditions. In the spiritual traditions, getting real is pointing to something insanely positive. So if you were to say, get real with me, you would be getting in touch with that thing in yourself which produces unbelievable power and confidence in your life, in your path. So it's interesting to see that we're sort of flipped, as usual, in the worldly life, we flipped it around, and therefore we're suffering. We go through a lot of pain because we think, well, if I'm going to be real, I should be in pain somehow. You know, something should be going on. So we do this thing where we say, well, how are you? And we go, I'm fine, but, right? There's always a but. And I don't know if you've noticed, but you feel like if you don't have a but, something's wrong with you. You know, someone's like, and you're fine, but there was traffic on the way here. And, you know, that was a big problem for us. So, you know, now, okay, good. Great. Now I got something I can worry about, you know. So what's so beautiful and really overwhelming in a way when you deeply take it in about the spiritual traditions, not just the Buddhist tradition, but any true spiritual path, is that it starts with real confidence in your situation, in your, not the person next to you's situation, your personal situation in this life, just as you are, to have total confidence in that space. And if you can start there, anything is possible. Everything is possible. When things feel stuck for us, it's because some part of us is not in the recognition of this very thing that we're going to discuss today. If you can hold this step of the path, if you can wrap your mind and your heart around this step of the path, everything else moves relatively easily. I say relatively because going through challenges is part of the path. If we didn't have any challenges, we wouldn't actually have, you know, there'd be no muscle, there'd be no power built if we didn't go through some strength building activities by, you know, moving through challenges and afflictions and things like that. But to have a base of total confidence is really important. So to recognize the compassion and the wisdom that is in this path and to try to tune yourself into that frequency to see that this path is so intensely positive. We are not going in a negative direction. This path is not saying you're a big sinner. We got to deal with you now. You know, you're condemned or something like that. There's no condemnation here. And I personally find that something in my being relaxes and kind of goes, okay, maybe I'll listen to what you have to say. Because you're not pointing the finger at me like this, you know. You're actually saying, you're just as you are, just fine, okay? So can we pass out the packets? Thanks. So in your packet, there'll be an outline, and I think in particular for the teaching today, it'll be helpful for you to look at that outline. It's a 2-page outline today. Try to get it down to 1 page, but then it would have been, 7-point font or something like that. So just... So you can go ahead and open your packet, and there'll be a 2-page outline for you, and I would recommend taking that out. So you'll see at the top, as you're getting yourself together here, there are 2 divisions to the Lam Rim, or the steps on the path to your own evolution of your own consciousness. The one is learning, is what we started to talk about in the last workshop, which is finding and learning how to relate to a guide. And ultimately, just a reminder for those that were here, the guide is your life. The guide is everyone that you come in contact with. So the first step is to learn really how to relate to other people in a meaningful way for you, okay? The second division is everything then the guide offers you. So these are the two. If you can say it like this, find a teacher, try to listen to what the teacher is telling you, and try to put that into an action. And that's like, boom, okay? That's the next year and a half from there, all right? So we're starting now the second division of the Lamrim. Within this teaching on our freedoms and our gifts, our confidence, our powers in this life, our baseline. This is like in music, this is like the bass drum that's always going. You can play all kinds of things on top of it, but this is the bass beat. This should be that you always got going on, okay? And as maybe you saw in just these little tuning in exercises that we did, was it challenging for anyone, and it might have been, so I'm honestly asking, was it challenging for anyone to think of a moment where they had some sense of gratitude or preciousness or something like that? Did anyone trip up on that? So you already got it, okay? Like, that's all you need. If you've had one moment in your life of truly feeling like this moment is precious, I feel the amazingness of my existence in this moment, then the practice is to tune into that quality and figure out how you can extend and infuse that quality into the rest of your life. And that's just a practice. That's just habituating yourself to being able to not separate. We're so very good at separating, saying these flowers are good, this muffin is bad. That's the way we live most of the time. Like it, don't like it. So part of the practice is to say, can you extract the quality and turn the quality and place it onto something else, because the object in and of itself is not holding that quality. So say that one more time. The object in and of itself doesn't have the quality. So what's the proof of that? I like these flowers, but someone else might come in and say, these are boring, really boring flowers, right? Can we all agree on that? Right? We have different ideas about things, yeah? So it's like so simple we miss it. We all know, we all have different opinions about things. So this is proof that this object, and this means every object, including yourself, has absolutely zero quality. The quality is coming from you. This is power. This is a gift. This is the power that you have. Your experience of the universe is coming from you. It is not coming at you. It's not coming this way, but the feeling is that. The feeling is coming this way, okay? So if we can tune into that, then we have extraordinary spiritual power to start to tune that energy out to other things, okay? So within our freedoms and gifts, there are also 2 steps. We're going a little bit more traditional today with the steps. The first step you can see on your outline is urging advice that we should try to get the very essence out of our freedoms and gifts. That's the step we're going to talk about today. The second step is then the rest, the method of how to do that, okay? Which we'll continue on through the years talking about that. So I actually want to start with part 3. So if you go to the second page, you'll see a C there. So there's 3 parts to this contemplation, and I want to start with the third part today. Which is to say that this particular life that you had and have now, from the point of view of the Buddhist tradition, is nearly impossible to achieve. And they're really not being kind about that. They're being really literal. And these come from very particular sources of the Buddha. There are numerous sources in the Buddha's teaching where he does things like, puts his finger down and picks his finger up and says, the chances of you getting a life like you have are the difference between the amount of grains of sand on my finger and all of the particles in the entire universe. This percentage, this is the rarity of your life. Right? And then people are like, wow, if I tuned into that, my head would explode. You know, if you really take in what that's saying, okay? The Buddha was being literal, wasn't being metaphoric there. So to think about how difficult it is to have a life like this, and I'll just say some of these things, and then you can sort of think about them, and we're going to go on. But the idea is that in order to achieve the type of life that you have now, you must have in your past, and however you think about this for now is great. Past life, you were a star, the energy, the continuation of energy, however you want to tune into this. But the energy that created you was one that was extraordinarily pure, unbelievably good, that if there was a past life and past lives, then the beings that you were in the previous lives were saints, hands down, must have been saints. Perfected generosity, unbelievably ethical, totally patient, so joyous to serve other beings, purely focused and possessed of amazing wisdom. This is, I'm not making this up, this is what they say, you know. And most of us sort of go like, I'm just an ordinary person. I'm, you know, sort of boring, and sometimes I have some interesting thoughts, and like, you know, I pick my toes, and I'm really like, I'm not all that. And these teachings are saying you're missing something. You're missing something. If you really look at the quality of your life, which we'll do today, you're missing something. Another thing that I find really interesting that they say is in order to have a life like this, that in the moment of your passing, from your last body, your last incarnation, your last mind, your last consciousness, to this consciousness, you did not succumb to fear, and you did not succumb to grasping, but you actually had the power to be able to direct your mind forward. This is extraordinary focus. It's like imagining that you're standing in front of a Mack truck and the Mack truck is rushing towards you, and you're able to hold your mind in that space and move it and not go like run out of the way, okay? So to consider that maybe we have been born into this life with certain powers that we haven't awakened yet is what this is pointing us to. And we might have sensed these, and we'll see if we've sensed these. The last option, so basically either you were a saint, or in the moment of your passing, you just happened to have a really pure thought, and you ended up in this body. In which case they say you're like a beggar who stumbled upon a mine of gold. So don't waste it. Either way, it's like don't waste it, right? So if you're a beggar that just happened to stumble upon a mine of gold in this lifetime, recognize the situation and like get the goods, okay? And if you were indeed a saint, remember that you were a saint and pick up from where you left off, okay? So hopefully some of the things we'll talk about today I wanted to start with this one, the end one. So as we go through these ideas, it might awaken something in you. You might sense something in yourself. So we're going to start with the freedoms, and we'll look at the freedoms for a little bit. You can see here under A, these are our 8 freedoms. It's very interesting. From the Buddhist perspective, freedom has a particular quality. So I'll say this first, because these might not be the normal freedoms that we think of. Freedom in the spiritual sense is considered a state of mind or a condition of being where you are able to deepen your compassion and your love for yourself and other beings. If you are free to do that, you are free. Okay? So this is not like, you know, I'm free to leave this class right now, or I'm free to move to Canada, or we have amazing freedoms in this country. But these are particular spiritual freedoms. So this is what we're talking about today. And we're all possessed of these. Okay, everyone in this room. And you'll see. I don't think they're disputable, but maybe. We'll see for you. So they're split, these eight freedoms that you have. You don't need, if you can recognize these 8 freedoms, you don't need to worry about other freedoms. These will take care of it, okay? So the first one, there are 4 bondages that you can have as a non-human and 4 bondages as a human. And these are just to play with, okay? So if you're someone who doesn't have a particular interest or resonance with the idea of past or future lives, that's totally fine. These are just things to consider. It's not dogma. These are meant to awaken some consideration in your being that might be meaningful for you. And I'll just say this before I do the freedoms. You could say the greatest gift that we're given in this life is that we have the potential to make our life meaningful. Each of us individually has the potential to make our life meaningful. This is a gift. We have that quality in our being. We're not locked into any state. So as we go through these teachings, I encourage you to take the power that you have and to make this day meaningful for you in some way or another. Like, step in and do it, okay? And I would also posit that you know exactly how to do that. You know exactly how to do that. If you can just tune in to what's going on with you, okay? So here are some things you are free from. Right now, as you are right now, you are not in hell. This means that you are free from unremitting suffering. This is the quality of hell, to be in hell. It is unremitting suffering. So, sometimes we joke and we sort of say, that was hell, I was in hell. We have to recognize that that's really a phrase. So to consider that there are beings, there might be beings, you might have been one of those beings who experienced unremitting suffering. Sometimes people call me and they are in really some form of deep pain, and they say, I'm in hell. And, I take that in. But if you have the presence of mind to pick up the phone and dial a number and speak, you're not in unremitting suffering, actually. Some part of you still has agency over your being, okay? So when you are free from unremitting suffering, you're able to turn your attention to other beings. The quality of suffering is that you can't stop thinking about yourself. So a hell is when you have no relief from your own self-consciousness, no relief from your own awareness. And they say in the hell realms, not only do you have no relief from your self-awareness, but it's like exploded. You experience your body as huge. So when you have a pain, if you've ever had a sickness or a pain, your back goes out or something is going on, you know how that part of your body it like radiates as large? And you'll see people when they have an injury, they'll sort of move that space away from other people. So that's just a little sense of what a hell being experiences. Every part of their being is like that, is exploded. And they can't get it away from anyone else, and it's constantly being invaded. So you're free from that, okay? You're free from being born as what they say is a craving spirit. And this means that you're free from insatiable craving. Insatiable craving. Okay, so again, we might really want that chocolate. We might really like the banana bread that Heather baked, whatever it is. That's not a craving spirit. The craving spirit sense is that all they can think about is food and drink. And when they receive food or drink, they have no ability to appreciate it because they're just on to the next thing. Okay? We can sense in this world that we're in. So again, these are speaking about other realms. But we can sense the quality of this. We can sort of tune into the quality of what it might be like to live in realms like this. So again, we're free from this. So we can take our attention to others. To even be able to consider what it might be like to be a craving spirit is a freedom that a craving spirit doesn't have. There's no room for self-reflection like that. So one of the realms that we're able to view is the animal realm. So you were not born as an animal. And we could say that we're a human animal, and that's true. Within a scientific thought, we're a human animal. but there is a distinct differentiation between the Homo sapien and the rest of the animal realm. And that's pretty much, we can agree across the board, scientifically, spiritually. There is a leap that's made there in the degree of consciousness. So here you could say that you are free from the inability to think critically, or you are free from the from what they say in the text is deep dullness. We watch our dog. I imagine that my dog has an imagination. I watch him dream. I watch him do his little doggy thing when he dreams. And it's very sweet. But I don't perceive him being able to think critically the way we think critically. If I sat down and tried to have a conversation with him and, to go through some kind of analytical argument about were you born as an animal or not, I'm not perceiving that ability. We have that ability, okay? This is a freedom that we have. It provides us an opportunity to think deeply about how we treat ourselves and how we treat other beings. Now, I want to say clearly, because now we're getting into realms that we can perceive like animals. The point of this teaching is not to compare yourself with another, or not to say like, oh, the animals have it so bad. We don't really, who knows? I'm sure the animals have spiritual practices. They have spiritual animal gurus. No, really, I don't know. I don't think of them as lesser beings. So this is not the point of this teaching, is to somehow say like, my life is so great over other people. That would be a misunderstanding of the freedoms and gifts. That's not the quality that we're trying to tune into. What we're trying to tune into is much more personal than that. So we immediately jump to this comparison thing. And we think like, oh, my life is better than an animal. The animals are sort of stupid. I'm smarter, something like that. That's not what I'm saying. So I want to get really clear on that. Try to hear me. We're trying to point to something in yourself to recognize the opportunity you have in this life. Maybe you were an animal, maybe you'll be born as an animal, but each person individually in this room has the ability to think critically about themselves and other people, and that gives you the ability to consider to change your actions. That's very rare. Very, very rare. And so we want to be able to take that power and use it. Otherwise, it's a waste. Another way you could say this whole class, although it is a little more hardcore, is don't waste your life. Really don't waste your life. This is the essence of the quality of this teaching, of this step, is you have this amazing opportunity here. The last one in the non-human realm is what are called long-lived pleasure beings. And these are beings who, through their compassion and through their work in the past, they say have been born in like amazing states of bliss. They're just totally like blipped out in bliss. It's like, I don't know, going on some heroin trip, or like they're totally just like, oh, and this is actually considered an unfavorable state because they're so numbed out by their own fortune. So it's really interesting. They say that the human state, and when I say they, who's they? Who made up these teachings, right? Where do these teachings come from? So the Buddha emanated in a human body and gave these teachings to humans. I just think we have to tune into that. So these are humans saying to other humans, your life is awesome. That's very compassionate. Not all humans say that to other humans. Some humans say to other humans, your life is an abomination. Your life is crap. You should be different than you are. This is not the quality of this teaching. So this is humans looking at all of the other phenomena that the human mind can take in and recognizing the uniqueness of the human's condition. We're trying to recognize the uniqueness of our own human condition, our own humanity, and to take confidence in that condition, okay? So when we look at other beings, and again, we can have a tinge of this, like the example I often give, and some of my students have heard this example before, but I used to stay with this couple up in Santa Barbara, amazing, generous, amazing, wonderful couple, very wealthy. They had a very big home, and they had they're in their 80s, have a really good life. And, they've had some troubles, but like basically they're multimillionaires and like, they look good. They have a lot of energy. This guy's in his 80s. He goes to yoga several times a week. He's like, went to yoga today. Feel great. It's like, and I remember being there, and he hurt his thumb. And it was like, how could this happen to me? It's like, and he became so angry. And it was this like, this injustice is happening to me, I'm 81 and my thumb hurts. Like, this is really bad, and he's had sicknesses and things like that. But it's that numbness that we get into, and we have tinges of this in our own lives, where sort of everything's going well, and we just space out on the condition of things, that our life actually involves this sort of roller coaster of going up and down. And so a long-lived pleasure being is like way beyond that. And they say the pain of a long-lived pleasure being is that when they come, they have a very particular suffering. So they live very long lives. They have no suffering through their life, blissed out, on the beach, chilling, right? And then they get to the end of their life, and they see that they're going to die, and they have this profound recognition that they've wasted their entire life, that they had this amazing opportunity. They were wealthy, good-looking, had no problems, had no sicknesses, and they did nothing. And that awareness produces this profound pain, and it sends them directly into a lower realm, they say. So this is to say, don't envy other beings, and don't envy other people. Your situation is perfect. So it's not like if you had a little more money or a little better health or whatever it is, that somehow you would be able to live your life better than you're living now. Okay? Of course, we think this all the time. So these are the 4 freedoms from the non-human realm. So you could say you're free from being numbed out by bliss. You have an appropriate amount of suffering in your life. Okay? Not really, we laugh, but I used to babysit this little girl. This was years ago when I was in grad school, and her mother was German, and her father wasn't German, but they had a very German sensibility in their household. And one day the father came home, and I had done something really horrible to her, like, not allowed her to push her sister down the stairs or something like that. I had done something really bad as a babysitter, like not allowed her to stick her head in the oven and close the oven door on her head or something. And she was really angry with me. And she had been pouting for a while, like 2 hours. And her father came home and said, Manal, what is this? What's going on? And she's like, and I remember he sat down. She's 2, okay? And he sat down and he held her hands. It was so sweet. And he said, now, Manal, in our human life, it is appropriate that we have some suffering, And she sort of tuned in for a moment, and he said, it's important to have some sadness. That way we can understand when we have happiness. She's looking at him, At the moment he sort of stopped, she went, ah! And she started to scream again. But for that moment, she sort of tuned in. And I thought, oh, that's the way our mind is. Like for a moment we sort of go, so could I work with my suffering? Like maybe it's not the way I actually think. Maybe there's a way, and then we're like, no, it's just horrible. So like the teacher is there to sort of be like that. They say in the text, it's like the teacher is like Einstein, and our mind is often like a 2-year-old, a 2 or 3-year-old, and the Einstein comes in and goes, now Manal, there's an appropriate amount of suffering in your life. And we're like, no. So this is that quality here that you're free. You're free from being numbed out by bliss. So a little bit of suffering, which you might perceive as a lot, but in relation to a hell being or a craving spirit or an animal who's just constantly thinking about what am I going to eat and I hope no one kills me. If you watch animals, they're like, do you see the energy? Their energy is like constantly like this, and we romanticize them, but they're really on edge most of the time. Except for highly domesticated animals. But even that, if a little bit of danger comes in, you see that instinct come back immediately, right? So in relation to the suffering of those realms, our suffering is very slight, very slight. Okay, and it's just enough to tune us in to be able to open our hearts to compassion. So then the 4 freedoms that we have as a human, that we have not, we have these freedoms, that we weren't born in a place where teachings are not available, where teachings on reality, on growing our compassion and our wisdom are not available. So you could say that you are free from being in an environment where there is no guidance, no sense of vision, no sense of love. You're free from that. And that gives you potential. That gives you opportunities, right? You were not born in an uncivilized place. So what this means is that you were born in a place where people are trying to understand and practice ethical living to some degree or another. Okay? So this means that you are free from being surrounded by selfishness and cruelty. You are free from that. I'm not saying that you have not experienced selfishness and cruelty in your life, and perhaps you've experienced quite a lot of selfishness and cruelty, but it's not unremitting. And in a way, you wouldn't be able to recognize selfishness and cruelty if you didn't have the other side to weigh it against, right? So someone who's really in an uncivilized place, there's no sense that it should be any other way. So if you have that little part of your heart that when someone hurts you goes, it shouldn't be like this. You shouldn't treat me like that. This isn't the way the world should be. That's actually, although perhaps the reaction is not so positive for you, that's a good instinct to tune into because it's pointing you towards ethical living. You're saying like, wait a minute, is this okay? Like you just yell at me and I yell back at you? Is that the way it's going to go? Right? So the very fact that you can recognize that there is a different way of living than just hurting each other all the time is a freedom that you have. You are not born as a human being who is severely retarded or insane. And that's true of everyone in this room. Okay? So again, this is not to say that people who are born with some type of retardation or born with some type of mental illness are somehow lesser than you or have a lesser chance in their own life circumstance. This is pointing to your life circumstance. You were not born like that, and therefore you are possessed of certain opportunities that you should make use of. Okay? So, my brother, as many of you know, is severely mentally ill. He has his own world. He has his own path. I watch him on his path. I respect his path. I honor his path. But for me to relate to my path as his path would be equally as insane. So his path, he has a certain degree of ability to turn his focus to other beings. And it's very small because his suffering is so intense mentally. So his ability to, he'll ask you how you are, and before you even answer, he's already talking about himself again. He can't receive it. It's painful for him to say, how are you? You can feel it's like he's going like, right, I'm on the phone with you. I just remembered I was supposed to have a conversation with you. Meanwhile, it's been an hour of him talking, right, beforehand. So we can recognize we're not like that. Sometimes we might be like that, right? But it's not unremitting for us, So we really have an ability to greater or lesser, and we try to increase it in our spiritual practices, but we have an ability to turn our attention to other beings. And it's not a painful, insanely painful process for us to say, how are you, to someone else, and to make a little bit of space to receive. Okay? But for a deeply mentally ill person, that actually is. It's nearly impossible for them to do that. And for someone who's deeply retarded, they're working with another realm of consciousness than we are. Okay? So we have freedoms. David and I were talking about this, and I was asking him, so what do you think is the specificness of this freedom? And he was saying, and I think this is true, that it's something about obsessive and repetitive thought. So people who have deep retardation, and I witness it in my brother, people who have mental illness, and other people that I've worked with who are mentally ill, there's an obsessive repetition that's clicking in the mind. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Have you perceived this in other beings? We're free from that. We of course, have it to some degree or another. But we can invite new thoughts into our mind and develop them forward. Do you see, we don't tune into these freedoms. We are free to do this, and we just zone out about it. That we can actually think and imagine, generate an idea, take it forward, grow a vision. Many, many beings don't have that ability. So to turn in and recognize that we do have that ability, what are we supposed to do with that? What can we do with that to get inspired, to get excited about what's possible? And lastly, we are free from holding wrong views. So this one takes a little bit of unpacking. So wrong views from the spiritual perspective. And when we say wrong, we mean that it's harmful. It's harmful for beings like us. It is harmful for us to hold these views, and no one in this room, I know, holds these views, or you wouldn't have come today. So you're free from these, but these are views like, I can't change. I'm fixed. No one else can change. These are views like, life is shit and then you die. No one in this room is holding those views. You would not come to the Mahasukha Center and come to a spiritual teaching if you were holding views like that. Okay? I'm not saying they don't pass through your mind sometimes. Okay? But holding them means that you are that. That is your view on the world. And you can see, to have a kind of view where there's no transformation is intensely painful. If you look at the state of your mind, probably now, if you think, okay, this is the way it's going to be forever, that is often quite depressing. But that's not the case, actually. Extreme transformation is possible. So you're free from this. You're free from these harmful views of the mind. Another one that they talk about is that you think that there's no continuation on. So when this body falls away, and again, there's many ways to talk about this, but I think most people, even in the scientific community, agree that at least the matter of your body gets recycled, right? We can pretty much agree that recycling occurs naturally in the world. So why would we think that it doesn't happen mentally too? Why is our mental consciousness, our mental energy not being recycled? Yeah? So to hold a view where it's like, I die and somehow everything drops out, I blip out, that I don't have any power energetically, that the atoms and the molecules that are making up my being, and then my spiritual energy, my consciousness, to think that you are powerless, that energy is powerless, but it's not. When you pass, that energy will be released and it will move on and take other forms. Just as when a flower dies, it goes into the earth and it rises up as grass or rises up as other things. Okay? So these are 8 freedoms that we have, and it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, but I offer them to you, and you can go slowly through them and sort of just let them, percolate in your being. I wanted to do one thing before we'll take a little break in a moment. So as I mentioned before, the idea for having a life like you have now is that you are able to develop compassion and wisdom, both of which are virtues. So from the spiritual life, the only point, they're very clear, and I think it's very focusing. The only point of your life, and when I say you, I am speaking to each person individually in this room, personally and intimately. The only point of your life is to grow virtue, to open your heart as wide as you possibly can to yourself and other beings, and to figure out how to do that, and to make that the purpose of your life. And of course, there are many, many ways to do that. You can become a fireman, you can become an archaeologist, you can be whatever, have a family. Okay, so there's not some way it looks, but the intention, all right? So I'd like to take a second and just off the cuff, just write down some virtues that come to mind for you. List of maybe, 3 to 5. Everybody got a few? Can we just say some of them? You don't have to raise your hand or anything, but just speak them out. One that points out to you.
Vision.
Sorry?
Vision.
Vision. Dreams.
Compassion.
Compassion. Sorry? Mm.
Curiosity.
Mm.
Patience.
Mm.
Sincerity.
Mm. Anybody else?
Courage.
Mindfulness.
Mm. Okay, good. So now I'd like you to think about, take a moment, and close your eyes if you want, or you might not need to. Think about at least one. A list of one is fine. There might be more. But think about the virtues that you really, truly, this is just for you, that you truly right now in your life, in this moment, this precious moment of your existence, the virtue that you really want to develop for yourself, that you feel is most vital for you to be developing right now. And a few may come up, but and then write that down for yourself in a way that's meaningful for you, always. And then when you have it, if you don't have it yet, that's fine. But when you have it, just get into a meditative space for a moment and close your eyes. So tune in to this virtue, this personal virtue that you just wrote down and thought of. And I'd like you to sense for yourself why it matters to you. People tell us we should do things all the time. They tell us how to be, the spiritual traditions, consumer capitalism, your mother, your father, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, wife, husband, family, etc. Everyone has ideas about how we should be. I'm asking you, how do you want to be? What do you deeply feel in your heart? And this virtue is something that you've identified for yourself, that is something you'd like to grow in your relationship to yourself and other beings. So please sense for yourself why it is that this is so important to you. Think about it. Feel it. What do you imagine your life would be like if you were able to develop this particular virtue to its greatest capacity? So as Kelly said, we have a freedom to dream. Dreaming is its own virtue. So I'd like you to dream here, imagine. And if you perceive that there are obstacles or blocks to you developing this virtue, I'd like you to sense in yourself what you think those are. And see if you can hold a little bit of kindness with yourself, so not fall into judgment here. But you're just noticing. And maybe there are no obstacles for you. Maybe it's just simply bringing your attention to this and doing it. And finally, I'd like you to imagine a future circumstance, we're just playing, where you might enact this virtue more purely with yourself or with others. And just imagine what that might be like, how you might act in that situation. And see if you can feel, again, that sense of gratitude and preciousness that you might sense if you were able to embody this virtue that you already have, that you have the power to grow. And how it might change your perspective and the quality of your life. And of course, the lives of those around you. Okay. For us to recognize, this is very important for us to recognize, if it doesn't matter to us, we won't do it. And that's just the way it is. So you can be really honest with yourself. No one needs to tell you, at this level of your consciousness, everyone here is a very highly evolved being. I don't need to teach you about ethics. No one needs to teach you about ethics. I mean, we can talk about them, but if I say to you, think of some virtues, everyone's got, your list is just fine. Your list is great, okay? And I'm sure when I said, think of something that you want to grow in yourself, you had something, okay? I trust that. I trust that that is exactly what it is that you should be working on and that you should grow, and I trust that you know how to do it. So the question becomes, will you do it? Does it really matter to you? And if you're not clear enough on the uniqueness of your situation and why it is that that would matter, I mean, it came up for you because it matters to you, okay? So now know that you have a particular power in this life to embrace that and hold it so that its meaning can deepen for you, so that you can take it forward in your life. Otherwise, we're just too busy. And as soon as we take the break, you're going to forget about it, right? So we can simplify. If you just spent the next year really taking all your attention to growing that virtue, I'm sure that my life would improve greatly, right? Because the world would change because of that. So trust yourself. Trust what it is that this is what your life is for. Whatever it is that you just thought of, that's it. Nothing else really matters. I don't even need to hear what people were thinking of. But your job, you know, your time on email, your Facebook account, all of that stuff, those are vehicles to practice that virtue. You see? Those are vehicles in order for you to grow and practice the virtue, your family, your relationships, all of these things. So let them be what they're meant to be for you. They're places in order to grow that. And if you feel like you can't practice the virtue in those places, drop them because they don't matter. They're not what your life is for. All right? And maybe you can sense, I hope you can start to sense the resonance when you think of growing that virtue. I hope there's something in your heart that opens, or you can start to feel a bit of excitement somewhere. Like, that would be nice. At least that sense, like, well, that'd be nice. Right? Grow that. That's good. All right? So let's take a 15-minute break, and as we've been doing, I'll ask that this first break, we'll take another break after, that this first break we'll take in silence. So eat, do whatever you need to do, take a walk, write, but we won't move into a social space. We'll just try to hold our minds, okay? Thanks.